place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right.
This is not referring to the DCI. Now, bear with me because this theory is going to be a little interesting. From time to time, I like to go back and replay through the Scott era of the FNAF franchise, FNAF 1 to FNAF 6. And the main reason why I do this is to just continue to look for little specks of clues that might emerge to the surface. And last week I was playing FNAF 2. And for whatever reason, while playing through this game, I noticed something a little interesting. And it has nothing to do with the gameplay, but more specifically what we hear during the gameplay. The night phone calls from Ralf, or Phone Guy. There has always been something interesting about these phone calls. For one, they give us a lot more lore than FNAF 1 did. FNAF 1 had lore, however, it was more just directing us how to play the game. With FNAF 2, it also does that, but it gives us a lot more story context behind what is going on with Fazbear Entertainment and what's going on behind the scenes. And it was after I really realized this and was really listening to these phone calls multiple times, did something emerge to the surface. What was it that Ralf was talking about on night 6? Quote, someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. At first I thought to myself, oh, it's the DCI. However, when you go back and listen to the FNAF 2 phone calls, it seems like he already knew about the DCI. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's talk about dates and when we think this location opened and when we are playing as Jeremy as opposed to the old Night Guard. When we first start playing the game, we are greeted by this newspaper. Help wanted grand reopening. Vintage pizzeria given new life. Come be a part of the new face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. When we end the game, we get this newspaper clipping. Freddy Fazbear's is closing. After being open only a few short weeks, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is closing its doors. Now, what specific piece of information does this give us? One 3-letter word. Few. Few is often associated with the number 3 to 5, so we can only assume that that means this pizzeria opened and was up and running for at least 1 month. Now, what is the year that this pizzeria opened? Well, at the end of night 5, we get our first paycheck, which is for the grand total of $100.50, dated 11/12/1987. Also at the end of night 6, not only do you get that ending newspaper clipping, but you also get a overtime check for $20.10, dated 11/13/1987, the day after we just got paid $100.50. Now, if we go back in time and we look at the 1987 calendar, we can figure out exactly when these dates are. November 12th, when we got paid $100, is a Thursday, and the 13th is the Friday. So if we go back exactly 30 days to say that that is when this location opened, that puts us somewhere around October 13th. That's over a month of time of this location being up and running, and from what it sounds like from Ralf, a lot was going on. Something happened to start causing rumors about the pizzeria. Something happened to make the place go on lockdown and start a police investigation, and something caused the toy animatronics to go absolutely ballistic and be trying to get to us, the player Jeremy, who just started working here on November 8th, a Sunday night, which was night 1. So that begs the question, who was the night guard before Jeremy started working here? Well, we actually learn a lot about this mysterious person from Phone Guy himself throughout the gameplay of FNAF 2. On night 1's phone call, Ralf says this: "You're only the second guard to work at that location. The first guy finished his week, but complained about conditions. We shift him over to the day shift, so hey, lucky you, right? He mainly expressed concern that certain characters seemed to move around at night and even attempted to get into his office." Now, some of you might take this information and say that since the opening about a month ago, which could have been October 13th, this one specific security guard has been working this entire night shift by himself. However, we hear something interesting from Ralf here. He says the first guy finished his week. Not weeks, one singular week. And we can only assume that it was the week previous to when we, the player, Jeremy, started on November 8th. However, this security guard was complaining about the animatronics moving around at night. Now, this should remind you of something that we see in FNAF 2. Save Them. Save Them is a mysterious minigame that can randomly appear after we, the player, dies. In this minigame, we pilot Withered Freddy as he follows the puppet around the pizzeria, the FNAF 2 location. And strewn throughout the entire pizzeria are random dead bodies. We also know that they were murdered somewhat recently because there is fresh blood on the ground, bright red. As we are piloting Withered Freddy, we can hear him spelling out the words, "Save Them." And every now and then, on a rare occasion, you can get this Easter egg in which we see a man dressed in purple and wearing a security guard badge charge at Withered Freddy, and the game cuts out. Now, we all know that this purple man is William Afton, and it makes a whole lot of sense for him to be the night guard that was working the night shift before Jeremy. And it's been theorized by many of us that by this point in the FNAF timeline, Fazbear Entertainment is no longer run by just William Afton and Henry Emily. In fact, it is being run by a board of directors and investors. And so it would make sense for William Afton to still be connected to Fazbear Entertainment and even possibly have a job working at their new Freddy's location. But if everything that I just said is true, that would mean the DCI took place the week before the gameplay of FNAF 2 takes place, which logically does make sense. On the very first night of FNAF 2, the toy animatronics are acting strange and walking around, and shortly afterwards the Wizards are up and walking around, as well as the puppet. Something has happened in this pizzeria to cause these animatronics to start acting bizarre. And also with everything that Ralf goes into detail about there being some sort of rumors going around and how we don't need to worry about that. Also, it sounds like a police investigation was underway and the building was put on lockdown. This suggests that something very serious was going on. Now, some people have speculated that what Ralf is talking about here is possibly the murder of Charlotte Emily or something else going on the outside of the Freddy's location. However, if that's the case, there really wouldn't be an investigation into the company itself, and it wouldn't cause the building to go on lockdown. It sounds like the police were directly investigating Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for whatever it was that happened. I think with all the evidence that's on the table, it makes way more sense to say that the DCI took place the week before we showed up for work as Jeremy, and that William Afton was working the day shift, as Ralf states multiple times throughout the night phone calls. However, something does happen to this day guard. On night 5, Ralf says this: "From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out. You know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available." Now, the day shift Ralf would be referring to is the daytime security guard, which we already had a security guard for. It was the one that was previously working the night shift that Jeremy's working, aka William Afton. And so something clearly happened for whether it was the police or Fazbear Entertainment that started to suspect that William Afton had something to do with either the DCI murders or possibly tampering with the animatronics, like Ralf mentions in Night 4. You see, at this point in the saga of William Afton's life, we don't exactly know what he was up to. Many believed that he was at this point trying to do a lot of different experiments with Remnant, and so it would make sense for him to be tampering with the animatronics if he had just murdered 5 children the previous week. He's trying to harvest the energy that is in these animatronics and possibly take them to his Funtime animatronics. And so if Fazbear Entertainment notices this, they're obviously going to fire him, making him leave, and now is talking about possibly moving Jeremy to the day shift. And all of that is all fine and good, except for when we get to night 6. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. This is very interesting because there are 2 weird things about this phone call. Nights 1 through 5 are pre-recorded messages from Ralf while he is working the day shift, giving us instructions about our night. Night 6's phone call almost doesn't seem like it is a recording. When we hear the ringing of the phone and it eventually gets picked up, Ralf immediately says, "What on earth are you doing there?" If this was a pre-recorded message, how would Ralf even know we were even there at the pizzeria on night 6? It makes absolutely 0 sense. So there are only 2 answers for this question. Somehow Ralf knew, maybe through security systems, that we were at the pizzeria, and so he actually physically gave us a call. However, the way that the phone call plays out still sounds like a pre-recorded message. The second answer is that this phone call is not actually from 1987, it is a pre-recorded message from years ago that we are listening to. Now this is a big speculation, I know that, but this is really the only 2 answers I can give to this really bizarre question. And with those answers, that leads into the context of what Phone Guy is talking about. He is referring to someone using a suit in the back, a yellow one, and that none of them are acting right. What could this be referring to if the DCI has already happened? And also, what yellow suit is he talking about? There is no yellow spare suit in the back, according to all of the cameras throughout the FNAF 2 pizzeria. Well, there's 2 answers for this question. For one, there could be a suit off camera that we don't see, and it could either be William Afton who came back or someone else, maybe even Michael. And by wearing the yellow suit, they were able to instigate the animatronics, possibly as they were trying to tamper with them more to get more Remnant for research. However, I just want to make it clear, this is all speculation. We know absolutely nothing about what could be taking place here. The second answer, and one that I find a bit more interesting, is this recording could actually be from the first Freddy's location that opened in 1983, and could be talking about the MCI. And if that was the case, we would have to ask a lot of really hard questions. Is this talking about the MCI, the DCI, or what have you? And so with that being said, the main point of this video wasn't me trying to solve this question. I more want to bring it to the surface and show there are still things about FNAF 2 we don't fully understand. I do sincerely believe that the DCI does take place the week before we play as Jeremy. However, what is Night 6 talking about? And if this isn't a pre-recorded message, how did Ralf know we were at this location on Night 6? And so with that being said, please leave your comments and thoughts down below. I would love to interact with you all on this new idea. Make sure to check out this video where I go through all of the evidence from FNAF 4 proving what date the first Freddy's location opened. With that, I will see you next time. Have a fantastic day.